Hi, guys. I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery, and I'm located in Van.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Highland Heights, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk. Hey guys, just a reminder that this week we have the part 2 of Aletha's podcast. So I hope you enjoy it. Aletha is one of my favorite people. I don't know about Ryan, but it's pretty great. Okay, bye.
Okay, so I have a question for you guys actually. So when you have people messaging you or suggesting to you, do you ever make this? Do you ever make that? Would you ever make this? Have you ever thought about doing that? You ever think you could do this, but you could do like a little bit bigger? All those different forms. Like, do you ever, I know you make oil bottles, but do you ever make soap dispensers? I know you make soap sponges, but do you ever make like soap holders? Like all those different little
Yeah.
suggestions. How do you mitigate that without ending up having a table that just looks like a flea market?
I usually answer them pretty I like to hear them out on like what do they have in mind, what kind of shape they're talking about, and I'll just be like, usually I end up going the route of hearing them out and then saying, that seems kind of niche. Like, I don't know if there's enough market for that, and how much would I have to charge for that? And I kind of go that route of like sharing with them, hey, I need to think about this business wise because it wouldn't make sense for me to just do this on a whim or just make one of them. For me, it has to make sense, and there has to be genuine interest in wanting to make this thing at a base level. And then is there marketability to it? Because a lot of those things, they're bringing up ideas of things you're already familiar with. It's not like a new idea. It's just something random they saw, and they're like, you know what you should do? This would be a great business. And then they tell you like, have you seen those mugs that are, they got the little like
The handle, the
the
hand
little
mugs.
hand warmer? Have you seen those? Like those are, you
Yeah,
should.
I've seen them.
Yes,
I know.
Cheryl. Everybody's seen the hand warmer mugs. Okay. Like,
There was a I had to there was a lady at a show that I just had, and she mentioned an idea of it's like an hors d'oeuvre plate. It was made out of wood that she saw, and it nests inside the lip of a wine glass. So it's
That is
like
very niche.
it sits inside the wine glass, so you can hold the wine glass, but the plate is like bowled a little bit, and you can put your hors d'oeuvres on it, and you can eat off of it, but you can take it off and drink your wine. And we were talking through it, and I was like, that seems very niche. And I'm like, how would I even make that?
you would have to just make a bowl plate that would sit in your wine glass that you could take off and then put back on.
Yeah, and I was like, that would be the only, that's basically what we settled on because I was like, if I made this a plate and trimmed it, like I'd have to charge $30 for this thing. And she was like, it's got one use. Like, are you just gonna use that regularly?
I
And then
mean,
I'm
it
like,
doesn't have one use because you could put it in your Stanley. It's about the same width as a wine glass.
how many people have dinner parties? How many people have hors d'oeuvres? How many people need to hold a wine glass with an hors d'oeuvre? And
I have an
you can't
idea.
have a straw. And I'm like, a bowl would at least be marketable where it's not like, this is what this bowl is made for.
I have an idea. I think that you should make a plate, but leave a hole for the wine, for the straw, for a straw
Nobody
if
drinks
needed.
straw with wine.
Yeah, but that way you could drink
If
water.
you're ready to party.
I'm not talking about the fucking wine now. I'm talking about all drinks. Okay, I think you should make a plate with a little hole and then sell a cork with it so you could cork it if you need to, and then you which does go with wine. And then I can't believe that Vincent is still just getting the scritchies. Anyway, moving on. Um so you can put a cork in it and then they could put their straw through if they wanted and put it on top of their water cup while they're watching fucking Help I'm in a Secret Relationship and then have their goldfish on top because obviously that's what they'd be eating, goldfish and fruit snacks, and then they could take that off of the straw. No, they could drink it through the straw but still have
Maybe it's if
their
they,
snackies on the top.
yeah. But they moved into an apartment, so they don't have a couch yet. So they have to stand or have it like accessible where it's not going to spill, right?
Well,
Otherwise, the whole thing is that you have nowhere to put it.
listen, I understand that. I understand that conundrum because, like, when you go to a party and when you go to a party, I don't know how many paper plates I've put on top of a wine glass because I am want to get my phone out and look at something, and so I put my plate on top of the wine glass. It has my little snackies. You gotta balance it, and
But you
then
use that at the tiki party?
no, because those are full size plates. I'm talking about snack plates.
You could put a couple meatballs on there.
That's fair. Anyway, I'm just saying I understand the conundrum.
How do you handle those questions? Do you have people ask you?
You want to hear my honest answer?
Yeah.
I will legitimately say, yeah, so a couple years ago I started doing things that I only like, and I don't like doing that.
There you go.
You
I
said that
think
a
I,
few times?
I would like it.
I've said that more than enough. Why don't you have anything with handles? I don't like doing handles, and I told myself a couple years ago that I wasn't going to do anything I didn't like.
So I don't wear hard pants. I like it.
Yeah, I
That-
don't wear
That's
pants with I don't wear pants with belts. Like, get off
Yeah.
me. Like, uh,
that's very direct, honestly. That's not like
it
they
makes
should.
them laugh. It makes them laugh. Like if somebody came up to me and was like, "Have you ever made those mugs with those hand warmers?" I'd be like, "No, that's actually a very complicated thing. Or maybe it's not complicated, but it's a pain in the ass." So, and I don't do things that are a pain in the ass anymore. I've been doing this
I
for
like it.
15 years. I can choose.
Yeah.
That's
You can
probably
never
also
like a
why I don't have
suggestion.
any money. I will probably add that at the end.
That's a good part of it.
Yeah.
I'm finding that I'm having so many different forms these days that I'm having a hard time keeping up with all of the different forms that have been asked to be restocked. And someone will
Do
be like,
you,
"Oh, do you ever make these anymore or those anymore?" And like, I did that one time, and now I have 50 other
yeah.
things to make.
Are you mainly getting that when you do like open text polls or question boxes where you say, what would you like to see in a restock kind of thing? Or is it just unsolicited? Have you thought about making this? Or
Yeah.
do you make this
Out of the blue.
anymore?
I
Um,
stopped asking what do you want to see from me. I maybe ask that like once every season
well,
because it's usually out of the blue. And I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying that it's upsetting to get these messages, but I just feel badly to always be like, no, I don't do that.
Yeah.
it's
I would be like, thanks for the idea. I'm not really interested right now.
you could put it be like, I'll definitely put that in my notes of things I might do in the future.
That's exactly what I do, except that notes thing is like 50 items long at this point in time.
Well, just don't do them.
Well, don't make the notes. You just
Yeah, you just tell them and then you don't do it.
Ah, wow. Okay, well, that's not.
oh.
Oh,
Do you keep tallies of it next time they suggest a butter bell and you're like, okay, let me add that
Yeah, that'd be a
tally
good idea.
to my list. So
literally. Literally, that's why I ended up making garlic graters because I was like, all right, if I get 10 random suggestions for garlic graters from 10 different people, I'll make garlic graters.
So how many
And I
garlic
did.
graters have you sold?
A couple dozen now. So that's
Okay,
where
so
it's at.
that was a great, I think that's a great thing to do then. Then keep doing the notes and just say, thank you for submitting your request. Once I get 10 requests of this, I will potentially put that into the potentials of
the potential potentials.
of the next potential sale, you know? Yeah, because like I love that idea. Like if it be like, yeah, you're not the first one to ask me, but you're definitely not the most. So like it's not been asked the most, so it's got to hit a certain amount, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Honestly, I have to like there are a couple forms that I had not made before I got a commission request for it.
Yeah.
It was at show. Like the soup bowls, I never made them until I got a commission for them when there
Yeah.
was somebody at an art show and they were like, I love this cereal bowl. Can I get it with a handle on it? And I was like, well, that seems simple enough. The bowl's easy to make. I love doing handles. I can just put a handle on it. And you do a commission, you make, they want two, you make 4 to 6 of them and
You sell the other
you
two.
sell the other two. And then you're like, you know what? How did that feel to make those? How's the response? Do I want to make more? And I did. And then you price them appropriately. supply and demand, and the same for the garlic graters, I think. I don't know that, I mean, garlic graters have been around, so that wasn't a, a
Well,
new
it's not a
thing.
unique idea, that's for sure.
But it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, how can I do it? How is it in my making cycle? How much of a disturbance is it? How much of a, like, how much am I veering off my path of what I normally would make or is in my ballpark? And,
Mhm.
that's kind of the way I go about
He's
it.
making sponge holders now, which I'm pretty sure I warned you
That
years
was that
ago
was a
for not.
custom order. Somebody asked me
Yeah.
for one of those because they already bought some of my work, and they asked for a sponge holder and a utensil holder because they had a spoon rest, and they wanted to fill their kitchen with a couple other items on their sink area, and that's what I did. And then I was like, oh, well, I can do this sponge. I can make a few of them. So I think I made like 12. And
That
then
seems to be what I do too. I get a couple requests and I'm like, all right, this seems worth it. And then I make a batch of them and see how the rest of the batch goes.
yeah.
Whether it's should be
Do you
something that
market them publicly or do you just drop them online? Because I try not to market too much of the new things because I don't want to get bombarded. I just
depends if
I
I
just
like
take them
them.
to shows, and then if they sell, cool.
If I had a good time making it, like I had a good time with the garlic graters because none of them match. They're all whatever. I don't even measure them. I just have fun with them. Um, which also then I end up with somebody being like, "Do you have another one of this specific one? Are you going to restock this specific one?" No, that was one of a kind. That will never happen exactly the same again. And I think that might disappoint some people, but I've been doing more of that lately just to feed
Yeah.
my soul and honestly be lower energy because I'm sick. So that's how I've kind of been doing things lately, where I just
Right.
one off everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I only promote it if I'm having a good time with it.
I think, okay, here's something interesting. Here's a thought. So what if you, on the ones that are lower numbers, like lower number requests, I think it would be interesting if you wanted to get them off your list. Um, Either get them off your list or like see how the response is, you could do pre-orders and like maybe make I would okay, this is
Why would you want to pre-order something you haven't made yet?
listen, I haven't finished.
Okay, go ahead.
Bless us,
Okay.
Linda.
Okay, here's my thought. If you have like let's say somebody's like, "Hey, have you ever made spoon rest before?" And you're like, "No, I haven't." And then the next sale, you put 5 spoon rests, 10 spoon rests up, right? And you see if any of them sell. And if they do sell, then you go on and say, "Hey, I've had a lot of interest in spoon rests. I would love to see if you guys really want these or not." And then you do a pre-order for the spoon rests because you've made enough to know that you can do them. And you pre-order in the sense of like pick your animal, my design, like the design other than that is up to me, right? And or whatever you want to do, whatever. But then you can kind of see how that actually like if it was, oh, this is the first time this is happening, or I actually really like this, you know?
It's a good
I
way to
think
go
some
about
people
it.
just want to give you ideas of what they think would be.
But sometimes those ideas make you the most money, you know? Like
Yeah.
sometimes they turn into your bread and butter.
I just don't like the idea of pre-order.
Yes, we
Pre-order
know
scare the crap
this.
out of me, I gotta be honest. Yeah.
What?
Pre-orders I don't think I've got the capacity for pre-orders right now, but I do love the idea of a pre-order. I just
I
can't
think
do
you
it.
just make more if you enjoy it, and then
Yeah.
gauge it kind of on the sidelines a little bit of like keep your tabs on what's doing well, but maybe don't, because it feels like, well, I don't know. I guess for some people it feels like you're including them in your decision making. So you're saying, what are you interested in this restock? And then you kind of cater to that a little bit and you make more spoon rests than you would have otherwise because your poll showed that most people voted spoon rest, but that's not a guarantee anybody's going to buy anything. So maybe that's why you're talking about pre-ordering it.
Yeah.
So they actually
Yeah.
put their money where
Their
their mouth.
money tells you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you could do a cap on pre-orders. Like you don't have to make a bajillion of them. Say there's 20 up for grabs. Let's see what you
That's
got.
true.
You know, and that way it's not so aggressively like stressful, you know?
I've had quite a few people ask if they can pre-order. I've been making mugs with cows on them lately.
They're great.
Aren't they cute? They're so stinking cute. Anyway,
Mhm.
I've had a few people ask if they can pre-order them, but I'm worried that then that'll be the exact moment that I need to take a month off and just sleep in the bathtub, go to the toilet. So
Well,
I don't, yeah.
I think that it's perfectly and wonderfully okay for you to I honestly do think it's okay that if you have you have a stipulation in your pre-order that people have to click the box and say they actually read it that says there may be a chance that I get sick. Like I think that's completely fine. I know that not a lot of people know that you're sick, but they're gonna know now. So,
Customers might not, but
customers might not, but like I think that it's absolutely okay to say, you're pre-ordering this with the knowledge, knowing that I have a chronic illness and something may happen and I might have to A, refund your order or B, take an extra month, you know?
Mhm.
that might keep them from ordering though.
Well, then that even goes to show you if they want it or not, you know?
I kind of feel comforted by that because if there's somebody who's going to be upset about that, then I don't want to string them along thinking that
Right,
that's something that
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if, yeah, I like that stipulation. Like I can't have a deadline because that deadline will make me upset in the stomach area
Right.
and below.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
how do you, so seeing that you do have some, I called it like a gallery glaze centric body of pots, and then you've got like a motif kind of centric body of pots. How do
Yeah.
you decide, or how do you like the two, or decide between which ones you want to make, or which ones
I
you're
think it's
excited about, and
entirely
then
a mood thing. I wish that I had a little bit more structure about it, but it's the motif ones are definitely more labor intensive. There's a lot of carving. I have to catch them at the exact right time of the leather hard state so I can carve them the way that I want them. And they take more effort to glaze because you have to do the underglaze white back, which I will say Andrew does like 90% of, so that's great. But they are definitely more labor intensive. So sometimes I'll have things where I'll start work on a batch and then I'll get halfway through and need to take a nap for 3 days and then whoops, they're too dry to do a motif on. So now they're colorful.
mm,
Yeah. Which is a lot of why my work is kind of all over the place a little bit. I have a listener question that goes with this. Um, Juniper Potts asked today, how did you find your signature style? Is that an unnecessary thing? And what if you get sick of it? So that ties right into what we're saying right now. So
yeah.
how do you guys figure out a signature style when really it could be whatever you want it to be? You have skills for everything.
Mm. I enjoy doing different things at different points of time, and I realized that I cannot make sgraffito pots only. My hand would fall off.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
also, I enjoy throwing a lot of pots. I can't throw enough pots and have enough damp box space to carve and sgraffito every single one. Also, Erica's not here 40 hours a week, so, and Rachel doesn't want to do that. So I'm just like, also, I don't
So
want to
your
risk,
signature style is also based on the practicality of making like production.
yeah.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
I have to have the bread and butter because that's what makes those shows successful is bread and butter. If I only had sgraffito, I mean, not to say sgraffito, I couldn't make the same amount with sgraffito pots in the whole booth because you kind of become known for that, but I don't want that.
Yeah.
I think
I feel
between your
like
the two styles that you do have with your colorful things and then your sgraffito things, there's still a general Ryan vibe though. Like they
there's a
still have the same
connect.
shape hand. Yeah.
Because the form shape,
Yeah.
or because I feel like the
Form
the
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 handle.
sgraffito is just very smooth and oh okay. I mean, I don't yeah.
No, it still has your style.
A lot of artists don't even notice that there's a style in their different lines
Yeah.
because they're like, oh, that's completely different. But then other people are like, oh, it's completely different, but with some carvings in it. It's the
Yeah,
same.
like your mugs always have like this weird little bump at the bottom that's like two-thirds of the way through. It kind of like bumps out a little bit.
Mhm.
And like I could tell your mug if I painted it with like a fucking
With the belly on it, is that what you mean?
yeah, like a weird little belly, but there's a specific little like bump shape to it that maybe like not that, but a little bit even. And I if I painted it with my style, I would know it was yours without a doubt. Look at that. All of them have it. It's like 2/3 of the way down.
Usually that's because I'm trying to give it a little belly because those are more sellable than a
They all have it.
straight side, pretty much.
I love bellies. Bellies are great.
Bellies are great.
Yeah.
We're belly people.
Holds
Yeah.
more liquid too.
Yeah, it does. Also, when you're drinking tea, if you have like little bits of loose leaf or the coffee, it stays in the belly for the last
Oh.
sip. It doesn't get stuck in your mouth.
Yeah. Um, I feel like I kind of think about this a lot, but also not a lot at the same time. I don't know if that works out correctly, but I feel like my style has definitely like evolved over time. However, there's one thing that like I also have like a very two different types of styles, where it was like the
Are you thinking pottery, the
yeah,
pottery styles?
style, but I have a painting style as well, and I think you have a painting style and a pottery style as well. So, um, the painting style came straight from college. Like that was when I kind of like figured out that I was really into geometry, really into like squares, boxes, straight lines, circles,
How
perfect.
did you figure that out though?
Where, how?
Yeah.
Um, I, when I was in class, people would be like, well, okay. You know how is because of art history. That's fucking how.
Okay.
You're like, and I mean, I think that I'm really trying to find the right words right now, and I don't know why I can't find them. But I think that there is, with people that maybe didn't go to school for art or for school for pottery or school for anything creative, which is absolutely 155,000% okay. Um, there is a lack of history that is there's a lack of like art history that is presented to you because it's just not given to you. Like when I went to school as an artist, it was forced upon me to go through to art history. And so
Mhm.
I was I was given a Pinterest board of art, you know, as you will, a Pinterest board of art that was just flashed in front of me. And I was like, wow, I really like that. I really like Dada. I really like Impressionism. I really love Kandinsky. I really like the Bauhaus. I really like primary colors. Like, those are things that were given to me. I wouldn't have known that style before I went to college. Like I didn't, I had it a little bit in my brain, like you can see the stuff that in high school I did, but I had it a little bit in my brain, but I didn't really. And I think that there's people that are really interested in art that do look at artists online that maybe are in high school or early college that haven't had that like exposure to art history. But there may be a lot of people that are in our age range or older that went to school for, I don't know, like fucking like they're, I don't know, fucking engineers or
Biology.
biology or something like that, and they weren't exposed to all that stuff, and that is a really big helpful place for you to find your style. I mean, where are all these moms getting their style? They're getting it from Pinterest because they're looking on Pinterest all day long, looking and seeing what they like, and they're pinning those things to the boards that they like, right? They're like collecting that data and then they're looking at that data again to see exactly what they want their birthday cake to look like, you know? And if we're not doing that in our everyday life, like if we're not pinning certain things that we really admire, like either mentally or on Instagram or going to Google and just searching, then you may not find what you're looking for because that's just my opinion. Obviously I'm sure there's plenty of different opinions, but I find that the people our age that maybe didn't have that background aren't looking through the internet like I would look through the internet. Like Yeah, I follow a lot of potters. That's not because I like pottery. It's because I specifically like a certain part about their pottery that adds to my style. You know? Like I'm grabbing art is not re like art's new. Nobody like what do they say? Like there's no new artist,
Oh
right?
yeah, everything's been done, so we're all
Everything's been
mixing
done.
each other up. Yeah.
So the best thing that you can do is grab from certain things.
Hmm.
Uh I've actually witnessed, I'm not going to say the person's names, but I've witnessed somebody on Instagram really evolve in their art over the past couple of years. And it's a really good representation of what that looks like and what it is to find who you are and what your actual style is, you know? And what that typically looks like, I think, is first you're going to copy somebody straight up because you really like what they're doing. And then you'll be like, oh, well, I kind of like this better. So maybe I'll do this. And maybe I'll add this to it. And then maybe
Yeah.
I'll do this. And then you're stacking certain things on top of it that which then lead to a style that is yours. And like my style, my let's for instance, let's talk about uh my pottery style, like the basic bitch type pots. That pottery style is
Shitty pots.
shitty pots, right? The shitty pots. So that has a lot of um it goes from pruning pottery. He's got that wave in his pots, like he's got the nice like finger marks. Um, the glazing is very reminiscent of his glazing, but it also has a lot more color. And so I like colorful pots. The let's see, Gravesco pottery and our other friend Jen, her stuff really influenced my work. Hers has a lot of more bright colors, and like that was kind of all taken and all kind of like melded together. And I think that and it wasn't necessarily that like I loved it. It was just that that was what was put in front of me. I was in college, I was taught more of a like a Japanese style of throwing, um, which has morphed, obviously. And so it's a more thin, less chunk, a little bit more elegant. And, you know, you were taught a certain way to throw, it's a very country style of throwing in Kentucky, just generally. And so that was and like he throws how he's like pulls off the handle. That's a
Most of
very,
my throwing and everything
yeah.
was from Ben Clark that
Yeah, so it's
runs
like
Queen City Clay.
a very Midwestern style. And so the style that, and I understand that people nowadays, when they like maybe are self-taught or they don't have these significant influences, they're like, what the fuck is my style? Like, I don't know. And I think that a lot of people uh, they try to make it up and they're like, well, maybe this is it, which is great. But I think that actually, the more I think the best way to find your style, I'm sorry that I've just thrown up on this, but
I
um
love it. Keep going.
I think the best way to find your style is to look at as many images as possible and start dividing those, you know? Start compiling them into a big list and then take that big list, look through it again, put it into a smaller list, look in that list and put it again. Like go through Pinterest. I think Pinterest is a perfect way to do this
What a
actually.
tool. I love Pinterest. I think it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't used it in a while, but Pinterest would be a great way to do this is say, like, maybe you like more modern white style pottery. Go to Pinterest and like search that and start pinning every single thing that you like, and then move to that board and start pinning the ones that you actually like. And then find a style that you really can hone in on, and then take that and look at it and say, how would I change this if it was
Yeah.
mine? And I
And
don't think
it's a lot about inspiration for you then is finding the bits and pieces of what you love to compile together into your own style.
right, it's not even about like working. It's not even about like actually making the pieces. You can make a bajillion pieces in your whole life and never get a style. You have to decide what that style is.
Are you consciously thinking about that though? I feel like everything you're realizing it now, but would you have known that 10 years ago?
Absolutely not. That's why I'm saying it.
Yeah. But do you expect people coming in, they're 2 years into this, to
But I was
think about it the
given,
way that you're thinking about it now?
well, I think the difference is that I was given the opportunity. I was like shoved into the opportunity to like develop my style as opposed to somebody else who may not have that opportunity and they're going to have to consciously look for it.
You also have to be wanting to look for that
Yeah.
versus chasing the what are customers responding to?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just chasing the buck, essentially.
Yeah.
Don't kill your soul real quick.
Oh,
Unless the buck is what you're passionate about, in which case go for it. But
I think we've all done that. Like I've chased the dollar, you
yeah.
know. Who
Well, I
hasn't?
think you have to. I mean, you have bills to pay. We live in a capitalistic society, so you have to a little bit, but you
Yeah.
have to put a little bit of your soul into what you're doing, no matter what you're doing. I mean, you could be making pizza for a living or doing whatever else. If you don't enjoy it at all, you're gonna burn out eventually.
Oh yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah.
100%. But I think that's probably, I mean, if somebody like you just asked me that exact question, which you just did, and I was to tell them what I thought, I think that's exactly what I would say.
I think there's very specific like people as well. Like I heard like Meredith Host talk about some of her influences, and I think a lot of it is from her like
Past.
her past, her grandparents or something with like quilting and
Oh,
all
that's
of
nice.
this, and it's that's where some of the influences and I think Jason Burnett also has some of those influences where his grandmother would quilt or whatever, and he was just obsessed with fabrics and textiles and everything like that, and then he was like, how can I make that look on clay? And you kind of like come from that approach. And like if you're asking like Rachel's influences, like she started watching HGTV when she was like a child and has been watching for like 25 years.
She was watching HGTV in the womb.
Like, so, there's so much information and content you're consuming that is probably being piled back there, and you're doing what Becca's talking about through art history, and
Yeah.
you're sifting through it and filtering it down, and you're like, what do I like and what do I not like? And
I was also gonna say too, I think that if you are having a really big issue, like really trying to find your style, or you're just having a lack of inspiration, I really think that you should go to a contemporary art museum because
Good idea.
most of them are free. Not the traditional art museums, but contemporary art museums traditionally at least have a free night. They have some of them are completely free. Like I know Little Rock, Arkansas, their contemporary art museum is completely free to walk into.
Cool.
Because they have all the rich people to donate to them. And just go. Just actually go and take pictures and be in the art and be like, what do I like?
the Cincinnati Art Museum's free too.
See?
That one's a traditional art museum. That's not contemporary. I think the contemporary one actually costs money downtown,
Yeah,
but
I mean it depends. Like
the
I
one here is
yeah.
pretty nice.
Also, I think it also depends on what your abilities are. Like
That's a good one.
why do I draw straight lines and boxes? Because I can't draw a fucking face, I can tell you that. I
I think a lot of it
my
for me is the process that if I hate doing something, then it's not going to be part of my art style.
yeah, I mean like why do I do completely almost completely non-objective abstract art? It's not only because I like it, it's because I'm a garbage painter when it comes to like painting something realistic. And like I think you really have to just accept that.
I think that's
And
entirely
if you
fair.
can't accept it, get better.
There's that. Yep.
Yeah, I'm too perfectionist to try to draw something realistic. I'm just like, nope, I'm not gonna like it. It's not gonna look good. I don't have that loose draw. Like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just not interested in doing that. Like
You're like,
I've tried it a few times and then sure it works out, but it's not fun. It's not a good time for me.
right.
I'm sure it is for other people, and that's why that's part of their art style. It's not part of mine.
Yeah, like Bath Ceramics. She
Oh, her
is
stuff's amazing.
her stuff is phenomenal, but that's because she's phenomenal.
Mhm.
Like she's a phenomenal painter. Can you imagine how good she paints off of a fucking mug?
She
Yeah.
she knows what the colors look like without waiting for a fire to happen.
Like I can't even imagine. Like
Does she
and the
paint on
work,
canvas at all?
I don't know. I know that she went to college for painting.
Okay.
So yeah, but like the work that she's put into that is huge.
Hmm.
Right.
So the follow-up question, what if you get sick of that art style that you have developed, that just because you've done it so much and you're good at it, then what?
Evolve.
I
Evolve.
agree. Yeah, just change it. Um,
I think you probably have to force yourself to be a little uncomfortable. Like, I
Yeah.
know I could be spending my time doing this thing because it'll sell, or because I know what I know the boundaries of what I'm gonna potentially come across when I'm doing this style, and it doesn't veer that much. So you gotta be
Yeah.
like, some of those I'm thinking back to the commissions. I'm like, sometimes I have to be like, is there a business opportunity? Is it 1% or 2% different than what I would normally do? Okay, like I'm willing to do that because I
mhm,
like financially want to like, okay, that's a good challenge. I'll try that. And I like it's a little 4 week or 6 week challenge for somebody to
mhm.
make them happy, and it's a good, it's not complicated, and they're like, hey, I would love this, and I'm like, yeah, I could do that, and then hey, I actually like that.
Yeah.
You kind of have to stumble into it, for me at least.
I think that would be like I think about I did you go to art school? You went to art school? No, you went to hair school.
Went to hair school.
Okay.
Kind of like art
Um
school, but on heads.
what?
Art
Kind of like
school on
art school, but
heads.
on heads.
Oh, facts. Um okay, so I'm the only one with an actual art background, but you can look at the stuff that I started with in my very first class in college. Like the first class in college where it was quite literally a I can't draw leaves. Like I can't draw anything other than boxes, squares, and triangles. And math, like math was my thing, right? You can see like I'm thinking of my color wheel from Art 101 is it's on a square paper and it is literally triangles that get smaller all the way up. You can see that painting that I did that was a color wheel and then look at my paintings now and be like, "Oh yeah, I understand. I know how that got there." Right? Like you can see it. You can see the progression. And but there isn't a leap, right? There's no left turns.
Yeah, it's like a sibling. It's not like a long lost
Yeah,
cousin that you never met before.
exactly. There's no left turns, but there's maybe a winding road. Okay? So, and I think that that is something that you're looking for in evolution as far as your style is concerned. Is yeah, you can wind down that road, but the road still needs to be, Highway 12.
Hmm.
Like and,
Yeah.
So
and
part of
or
her
you
question here, do you think it's a necessary thing to have a unified art style if you're going to go into business?
I do, but that's
I don't think it needs to distract you and be like, I can't sell anything until I have a style.
I agree with that.
Yeah, same.
Like, I think you need to go through it and see
Well,
what
it's
you
a
like.
journey.
Yeah, I think you need to make a lot. You have to have the repetition to get the quality of forms where they need to be, regardless. So why not try some different things while you're making a lot of the same things, or
Well,
testing a lot of different things.
and also I think that there needs to be something to be said about the fact that we're working with pottery and not something like painting too, because you're working with two different avenues of style. So not only are you working with the pot itself, but you're working with the what's on top of it.
Mhm.
So
There's
so
form and then there's also surface decoration, and those are two
right,
completely
And
different
there's
worlds.
function.
there's function.
True. Yeah.
So you have caps, right? You have certain caps that you can't go past. Like you can't have a mug with a hole in the bottom. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't serve what function you may want it to be. So you have to have a certain level of talent or and dedication to get to a certain point where your pieces align within that talent, you know?
Hmm. But there's some that you could like. I think Andrew McIntyre, he makes mugs and there's holes in the sides, but
Oh
the
my
holes are
gosh,
there and the
the glaze drips
glazes
in, it's
fill
so
inside
fucking
it.
cool.
Oh, neat.
It's
Like
so
little
fucking
stained
cool.
glass windows.
Basically,
Yeah.
yeah. That's really nice.
Wow.
It looks like a
I have that
colander.
happen with variables.
Yeah, it looks like a colander that filled in.
Wow. Pretty pretty.
Nice. Yeah.
But that, I mean, like but that comes from knowing that the hole is gonna be there. I'm talking about
Right.
like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, like actual like,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
just threw through the bottom of your pot.
right.
Swim through it. Yeah.
it's kind of like those know the rules before you can break them situation,
Hmm. Yeah.
which I don't think is a super valid thing to say, but it sometimes applies.
I think
Yeah.
it applies. If you're
Yeah.
constantly getting failures and things aren't working out and it's because you don't know what you're doing, then
Yeah.
you got to kind of learn the basics before you can figure out how to bend the rules a bit.
Yeah.
I
I
remember
agree with that.
back when you mentioned oh, I started with this triangle picture into my paintings now. I'm thinking back to college when I was coming up with projects of what I wanted to do, and it was just
Well, I guess you
the
had art. Yeah,
my
you were a
it was
minor
a
in,
minor in
yeah.
art, but I was like, how did I come upon like what would be the linkage there? And it would be whatever studio I was in, I was always interested in figuring out. They had a lot of glazes, and I was always doing glaze tests and notebooks of how I would layer them because I was really interested in layering the glazes to figure out what combos looked
Mhm.
really good because there's so many combinations. And I was doing that in school and college and like coming up with the combos and being like, what actually looks good? Okay, this glaze with this first and then this one on top comes out more blue where they overlap. But if I do the opposite way, it looks more green. So it's like, okay, maybe I'll go with this combo. And then I was always doing that. I was very strategic with making sure I hit all the glaze tests so that I had all the data that I needed. And then I could narrow it down to the two or three that I really like the most and then put them on actual forms that I'm making and then you kind of go from there. So I'm still doing
Yeah,
that.
it
Like I
sounds like
still
you.
like finding combos that look good together. I can do any combo I want, but what looks good to me and also fits with my assortment of color options that I like to display. I always feel like it's too busy and people say, "I like what the colors you have." And I'm like, honestly, I feel like I have so many colors, there's no shortage of um it's hard to understand like, what my like style or color scheme is because it's so vast to me.
I wonder if that's because, from the point of view of the maker, we can see the vast differences between these things, whereas someone else will see that, well, like Becca says, all of your mugs have bellies, or yours, Becca, all of yours have this geometric vibe to them. So even though we, as the maker, as the person who had our hands on it, are looking at it going like, this is two completely distant cousins that don't even know each other pieces, other people are like, oh yeah, that's definitely you. And that's just because it happens naturally.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also interesting the like when it joins to like the pottery and then the like yours have a little belly. Mine are always pretty fat on the bottom, you know, and how they kind of like the shape style joins the painting style and how that evolution, because obviously they're evolving at different rates
Right.
because your pottery should be evolving much slower than your painting or your styles because it's a little bit easier to figure out painting and or a glaze.
Is it?
I think it
Yeah, I don't
can
know.
be.
I think that depends.
I mean, it depends. It depends. You're right. It completely depends. But they're evolving at completely different rates. So it's interesting to see when those kind of like intersect to be like the singing moment.
Right. And you could see pots where you got this amazing glaze combo,
And they're
but
garbage
when you
pots.
find the pot, it's like, okay, I made this pot and I know exactly what this glaze is going to do. It's going to look perfect on that
That
form,
that
like the
form.
berry bowls that have the holes, and then the glaze is going to run and it's going to split at the hole and it's going to kind of V, and you're going to get the overlap where it goes there. Yeah, it's just like you have an idea of like, okay, I know what this glaze is going to do. So this is a perfect pot for that to be done on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds very much just repetition. Keep yourself inspired and just keep going with it. Find what you love and keep going.
Yeah, but also don't like, yeah, that and I think the inspiration thing is really big. If you don't have any history in like art or ceramics or something like that, go find a book. Go find a book. Go on Pinterest.
Library. Yeah.
Like read up on the history.
Hola! Welcome to the ad for L&L that I am saying right now. As Carrie Heim looks at me in confusion. Just so you know, I'm breaking up the podcast so that we can talk about our favorite kiln makers, L&L kilns. And as you guys have been seeing, I don't know if you've been seeing all of the crazy, amazing like reels and stories about people getting their plug-in fires, but I have been, and it has been awesome to see everybody trying everything out, and they are so cool. And I got to pack mine up into my van for the first time this week, and it travels really, really well, honestly. Like, so much better than the previous kiln that rhymes with smut. And it's great. I love it. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's the plug and fire kiln from L&L. It's a very tiny kiln, test kiln, and it's a 15 amp kiln, so it can plug into any regular plug in your walls, and it's like apartment friendly and all those cool things. So yeah, you can find that at hotkilns.com. Okay, bye.
I like that. That's great. Good answers. So much discussion.
Thanks for the
Oh,
listener
yeah.
questions from Aletha
I have
Wow.
another
on
listener
behalf of
question
others.
from, well, I put a little question box in my story today, and I probably should have put that up like last week or something, but I didn't. I put it up a few hours ago, which may not have been the most
Oh, you
prepared, but
did?
Yeah, she
yeah, I
did.
just
I
did it
didn't
on my
see it.
story this morning, or it might have even been this afternoon.
Oh,
But I got
More
another
like this
one
morning.
from KP the Potter. They want us to talk about how to keep up with production and how many markets you feel you can handle in a year.
Take breaks.
Yeah,
mine's just
I
a
like that.
gut feeling. I
Yeah.
don't know. There's no I don't know. There's no number for me of how many pieces are enough pieces. I feel like I mentioned this with Becca recently that like I just basically keep working and it'll work itself out. Um, I just keep making enough to where I'm gonna have enough, and if I don't have enough, I'm I'm never gonna cancel a show because I don't have stock. So
Will you show up with a half empty table though?
yeah, if I have to, but
Yeah.
I'll do my best to have a full table, and if that means I don't have anything under the table, that's what it is. But
You
I
or
are
if
at
I gotta
on
pull
top of
out
the table
Dusty's,
and under the table, Potter? You have both at every
yeah,
market?
I don't.
Holy smokes. I
yeah.
do
If I'm
not.
in a 2 day show for sure, I have to. Like this
Well, a
weekend,
2 day show.
I'll have to have a lot.
What about you, Aletha? I think this is actually a perfect question for you. I mean, you're the one that probably struggles with production the most mentally.
Well, for right now, I'm kind of just asking Andrew what he can handle. It's less about me and more about like, hey, you want to do this thing? If you don't, that's cool. And if you do, that's also cool. But it's up to him. Um, so typically I'll do a an Etsy update once a month and then a market every month-ish. And that way I've got one of each in a month. But
Are those
this
pieces
year
from Etsy
it's
going to markets?
yes, I will put my Etsy shop on vacation mode while I'm at a market, and that way I can come home and put like figure out my inventory again, and then they kind of like alternate. So stuff that I made that didn't make it on Etsy before I go to a market, that'll be in the next update after the market if it didn't sell at the market. And that way I don't have to take pictures of it because it sold to somebody in real life.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? I might
Yep.
have kind of talked around in circles for that.
yeah.
Yeah. But then like if I do have a whole bunch of inventory left on Etsy while I'm going to a market, I'll just put Etsy on vacation mode for the day and then figure out the inventory afterwards.
Yeah. I think from my evolution of shows, it started with my first year doing 3 and then my next year doing maybe 5. And you just find pockets of time where, okay, I don't have a show between June and September. how am I
Yeah, so
doing
you
on
find
inventory
one.
between then? So you're like, okay, what shows happen in August? Is there a show that entices me that I've been to, that I've heard about, that other potters sell at that's good? Okay, and then I apply for it. And I just slowly built those numbers up a little bit. And a lot of it turned out to be doing the same show year to year. So it's like, okay, that's locked in on the calendar for that date. And then you just figure, I kind of did it by what shows do I feel are reputable that I'm interested in having a representation at, because I feel like it's going to be worth my time. It's already proven itself as good because of other peers of mine, or I've been to it. And that's kind of how I'm picking shows these days, because our weekends are basically, I mean, I'm doing a show like 2 weeks every month at least.
Yeah, that's
And
incredible. Every 2 weeks,
not,
that's a
well,
lot.
between like May and December, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's
I've
kind
got
of
a stretch
how,
before Christmas where it's going to be every 2 weeks, and that is a hairy couple of months there.
yeah. It's kind of weird. There's not a ton of shows that I feel are worth it during December. There's there's a farmers market, holiday market that's up the street from me that's on a Wednesday evening for 3 weeks, but they only accept you one of the 3 weeks because they want a mixture. So I do that in December, but there's not a lot of December shows, so it's kind of chill, honestly, during that period of the year. But sometimes I'll do the one at Washington Park that's downtown, and that one's kind of chill. But it's maybe a $1,500 weekend, and it's good. It's not gangbusters like a $4,000 show or something, but it's good. Like, I'm happy to be there. So that's kind of how I've evolved the shows. And then a lot of times Rachel will have to be like, hey, like, we're gonna go on a trip. You need to figure out what shows you're not gonna do. And it's like, okay, we can build the vacation around there. Like, it's 2 straight weeks, but we can figure out when it happens, and have flexibility there, so it's not, I don't have to feel like I'm canceling plans for shows. But I mean, it's just a reality. Like, that's how we live our lives, and we also have to
Yeah,
build time in to go on trips and spend time with each other and go do things for fun and date nights and things like that we enjoy. And we have nieces and nephews that have birthdays. They're growing up, so that's a reality too.
finding the balance is kind of difficult, but I think once you get into the groove of it after a while, then you can
Yeah.
find that balance a little bit easier after experience of knowing that that was too much or that wasn't enough or whatever in between.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
And I think letting, not expect, like, first few years, Rachel was at every show I did. Nowadays, I'm like, hey, if it's a 1 day show, you don't need to come. Like, do what you got to do. These are the shows I would like you to be there. If you can't be there, we can figure something out. And now she's doing her own shows, selling vintage decor and home decor and stuff like that. So it's, again, we're having to balance it together. So
Do you ever have neighboring booths?
no, we haven't done any of those shows. She tried to apply for the West Side Market, which is the one that I do usually 3 times a year. I think she got waitlisted for it recently, but we might do a show together. Well, actually, we did sell next to one other at the Backyard Craft Show, but that was the one that we host. So technically, she did sell
Yeah,
next to me at
that
that
makes
one,
sense.
but not at a show that we have not hosted. But maybe someday we will. I think she
Okay.
could probably sell at City Flea. We could probably both sell at that show
Yeah.
together.
I also consult Lloyd.
Where Lloyd's comfortable being at, so
Yeah.
he doesn't, die in the van being overheated or
Yeah.
whatever.
I'm
That's a
kidding.
serious contemplation.
Well,
You have to
actually,
make sure that he's going to be comfortable though.
You did have to figure that out last year when you were doing some shows.
yeah, it was fucking awful. Um, yeah, I had to like buy a cat tent for him and everything so he could be at my show with me.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Did you ask some of them? I know, but like Michigan and Potter Tour, you just had them in the lot and
Mm-hmm.
you were parked next to it. But
Yeah, and I mean like now I think that when I first started doing van life, I was like, oh my God, he has to be super comfortable and he has to be like he wants to be outside and blah blah blah. And now that I've got the fan situation kind of figured out and I know how hot it gets in there, and I can like I have 2 batteries, so I can hook the back fan up and the front fan up. Um, I honestly could care less if he spends the entire day in the van.
Well, he's
Um,
probably pretty happy in the van too, and it's like 30 degrees outside
yeah, and
Celsius.
that's Celsius, that's like 90 degrees. Um,
Mhm.
Fahrenheit, but no, it's
Yeah,
not. It's like 85. But
it's not like a
anyway,
dog in a cage.
yeah, it's not like a dog in a cage. He has a whole like if I can live in the van, he can live in the van.
Yeah,
I am a fucking human. And if I could spend an entire day in the van, so can he. So
yeah.
so it's like I used to feel like he needed to be out, and now I kind of just want to get rid of my cat tent, but I was going to ask you if you wanted it. Um and but it was fun while it was and when I needed it, but yeah, for me, I would definitely avoid doing shows when it's 150 degrees outside and stuff like that. You just have to prep the correct way.
Yeah, I
Park
mean,
under
we
a
have
tree.
flexibility to choose what shows we're doing and where
Yeah.
they're at and what time of year. You know what it's gonna be like. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what you're getting yourself into. I've decided I'm not doing a July 4th weekend show anymore because I've done it in a parking lot and it's really hot and people are traveling for the holiday weekend and it's just not worth it. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna do a show this weekend in the
I
future.
like that. You just decide for yourself and say, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of goes back to that thing where it's like a couple years ago I decided I didn't want to do things I really hated. And I
Why
that
go to a
seems
show
like
that you hate?
yeah, it seems like such a stupid simple thing to decide, but a lot of people don't do that. They're like, "Oh, I fucking hate doing this. I'm gonna do it
Why are
anyway."
you doing it?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like, bro, unless you have to do it because you're in a spot financially or whatever, like you have to do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it comes down to personality too, and whether or not you enjoy being at the markets, and if you want to do production style where, like Ryan, like you like producing a lot of things, and that means moving volume makes sense. Going to lots of shows makes sense. Whereas somebody who might go to one of those annual shows where they prep all year long and they make 50 pieces that all cost $3,000 or $4,000 each,
Right.
and they only do it once. That might be something that their style, their lifestyle, and their art style all blend in with having just one big old bash in the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a number of potters in the clay lines here that just do the spring fair that we have every May, and that's the
that's
only
it.
show they do the whole year.
Yeah.
Wow. There's a
But
big
like,
show in Ontario called the One of a Kind Show that happens, I think, 3 times a year.
oh,
I've
I
been
think
invited to pardon?
Ontario or Toronto. Oh, Andrew's here.
Toronto. He is. He's telling me that he's getting Nimbus's medicine ready so we don't double dose her. But then he
Uh,
disappeared.
I'm pretty sure Andrew did the one of a. I think Andrew did that show.
It's a big one. It's a big,
Yeah.
big biggie. I haven't been myself because it is like a 4-hour drive from Brockville, but um, there are lots of people who will make all year long, and then that's it. That's all they do. One giant show with the one of a kind event. It's a week-long thing, and you set up your booth like a storefront, though. You don't just set up a
Right.
couple of tables with some tablecloths on it. You build it out. It's pretty cool.
You know who I'm jealous of? Those people that like.
That's all they have to focus on is just making for this
No,
one event.
nope. I'm jealous of those people. No, I'm not jealous about the fact that they make all year and then sell only once because what if it goes wrong? But I'm jealous of those people that like can set up their booths like a storefront and like the reason
Oh.
that they sell well is because their booth looks nice.
I
Like
would love that. I just think
who
a nice booth is so cool.
like is there a pill we can take that
They
makes
probably
us
watched
like
HGTV for 20
yeah,
years.
they probably did.
But then
Like
again, maybe not, because I just saw a reel recently where this woman made, well, this pair of people made this gorgeous setup where they had, there's a 10 by 10 tent, and then the outside of it had like counters which how the heck do you bring counter space in? And they had hard walls at the back of it and all these cute little frames with all the beautiful, I wish I had their name so I could share it and plug them, but they sell jewelry and accessories.
I think I
And their
saw that
booth,
post.
yeah, and they said it didn't go well. People were intimidated by it. They didn't want to come into the booth because it looked too fancy.
Yeah, but I mean, like, but they're not the people I'm talking about. I'm
Oh,
talking about the people that do it and succeed at it.
oh,
Like,
well, everybody's jealous
So
of those
only if they
people.
succeeded, you would have been wanting to be them.
yeah, like I'm talking about like Andrew, like stationary Andrew.
Yeah. Does he
Like,
do all that himself, or does he consult and he has other people that kind of like
no, that's
have
just
that expertise?
that's just ingrained in his bones. Like that like ability to do a 6 by 30 foot display that looks like somebody popped it out of a magazine
Mhm.
is him.
Right.
Like
Wow.
that's
Yeah,
him.
I'm jealous of that ability, that's for sure.
And like I've never had that ability. Like never. And
Mhm.
he's tried. He's tried
Mhm.
to get me
It's
to
not a
have that.
teachable thing. Is that instinctual?
It's not, it's like I don't think it's teachable. I mean, I do think it is teachable to a point, but there's just people that fucking have it. It's like Isaac Shue's wife.
Mhm.
Karina
Correct.
fucking has it. She just has it.
Mhm.
Isaac doesn't have it. Let's be clear on that. Like,
Sorry, Isaac, I guess.
no, I mean, Isaac has a lot of things, but Karina has this style that everybody else wants.
Oh wow.
The
I'm gonna have
attention
to
to
like
the
step on
aesthetics
their
and
booth a bit to see more of what it looks like because that
just
sounds
look at their
fun.
gallery Mostasa. Look
Yeah,
at
just
their
look at their gallery. She did all of that.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
What if you had that, but your quality of pots was what it was 7 years ago?
I'd at least be selling something. Like,
Because it's probably a trade-off. You can't have all of it, so
no,
you
you
know.
can have all of it. You can. There are people that have all of it. I'm not saying there's a lot, but and I'm jealous of them.
I don't have it all. That's for sure.
I remember the first show I ever did. Yeah, I think it was the first show I ever did, and I was a young buck. And I spent so much money on this stupid fucking show. It was the one in the convention center, like a big, it was in the Tacoma Dome. It was huge. It was a
Right.
Christmas show. And I remember there being this booth right at the end of our booth, and they owned a lavender farm, and they had like a shop, right? They had like a shop, and it was their first time ever doing a show like this, and they fucking sold out. Like everything was gone on their shelves. Their booth looked so fucking good and approachable and like you wanted to be inside. It wasn't like lavender's not new. Like,
Yeah, but it's so perfect. You smell it, you want to have it. So maybe
yeah,
that's
but
the product is perfect.
I mean, like, I don't even know if they were the only lavender people there, but like their booth just had it. It just had it.
Is there a formula? Is there special things that you can list that's like this is a thing in a successful booth?
No, I don't know. I'm sure there is.
I think it's probably like you need some negative space for your eyes to rest.
Mm-hmm.
You need
Sure.
Height.
you need some height so that you're visually flowing through the booth. There's probably not a overwhelming like
Anything your eye
makes you
goes to.
recoil,
Yeah.
you know, too many different things in one small space is a little bit overwhelming. Too many, everything being the exact same is a little bit overwhelming. Too many choices.
See, I would say that Kelty and Tanner are that.
Yeah.
Kelty and Tanner are that. We interviewed them a long time ago, but they're local to here, and Kelty has it. She's got the
It's got that boho style and she dresses the part and,
yeah,
How important do you think it is to dress the part when you go to events?
important.
Like Ryan, I know that you always have like a nice shirt on. Your shirt game is always good, but
geeky shirt or
yeah.
tropical
And
shirt.
you always have your apron on, your working apron, right?
If it's in the winter, yeah, but I'm not the person to dress. I'm not the dress your part type of person.
Okay, okay.
She's like, I'm lucky if I don't have a stain on my shirt today.
Yeah. But I think it
There you
is
go.
very important to dress the part.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Unfortunately.
I tend to
It
want to
is.
wear a black shirt because then I'm a good backdrop for the pots. But I think that might be a hangover from hair because if you wear a black when you're standing behind somebody, then they can see their hair color better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just want to blend into the background and be the backdrop for the work
I thought it was so
Yeah.
you could
if
see
I'm
all the
standing behind
hairs on you.
them. Absolutely not. That's what the
Because I
black
can see
apron is for.
all
That's
the cat hair on my shirt today.
yeah, I am covered after all those Vincent scratches. I still have clay on me from earlier though too. I'm a mess. I went to
Yeah,
go
I
pick
don't
up
know
my mom's
the
dog from the groomer earlier, and I'm just like covered in clay. It's all over me, and I realized like I'm in public. Oh boy, this is a look.
yeah, we were talking about the dress a while ago and the like showing up and I think for me it's just I showered, I did, my hair looks good. I feel good going into it. I feel like that is not a variable that I'm thinking about.
That helps
I'm not
for
like,
sure.
okay, I go in and I'm like, damn, I should have showered this morning, or damn, I forgot to brush my teeth this morning. What the hell? Or,
Yeah,
whatever. I don't know. For me, it's just it kind of level sets. So it's like I'm starting off in a good spot.
I love that theory. That's
You know
a
what's funny? This is very minor and funny, but I literally, while we've been talking, I ordered pill containers, because I keep realizing that I forgot to take my pills this morning. And so I ordered some that I could put on my keychain, and in every single place that if I'm in a weird spot, I'll always have it. And
but
I feel like that's the kind of the same thing. Like the whole time that we've been talking, I've been like, I didn't take my depression medication and I'll probably be fucked up tomorrow. Like, just internally. Not that I'm performing badly, but yeah, it really does, like, having everything in order in a way like really does help
Yeah.
with
And
your
that's
performance
and that
wherever
should
you
be your
are.
daily routine too. Like my daily routine is to wake up and shower. So it's not different on a show day. I just show up. I just shower earlier and I do my hair that day instead of putting a hat on. And I put a nice shirt
mm,
on and I pick out my outfit the day before. I'm not scrambling, you know. I'm still doing my
you're
routine,
a very
but
organized person.
yeah, I'm just planning the day before so that I don't scramble.
I also think it's important to have kind of rituals on, like, do you have any rituals on show days, or did you have any rituals on show days? Like, I know he does, but to get you like pumped up, or like something that's always the same.
Tata souvlaki on the way home.
A
I look
what?
forward to it all day. Yeah,
What
big
is it?
souvlaki platter. I'm gonna stuff my face with tatas. So good.
Tata souvlaki?
What the fuck is that?
Tatas is the restaurant. It's been in Brockville forever. And souvlaki is kebabs. It's
Okay,
Greek
because
shish
it sounded
kebabs.
like you were gonna stuff your face into somebody's tatas.
That works too. But it's not my thing. It's someone else's thing, I'm sure. Go for it. I encourage that highly. I
Okay,
personally want to go sick.
is there something that you do though that, like, before, not after, before?
Oh, before. Um, I'm a scrambler, unfortunately. I
Okay.
can't think of anything. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, that's
I
okay.
like to pack the car the day before, and I want to be able to just get in the car and go. I don't want to be
okay.
packing the car in the morning.
That's fair.
Um, I want to make sure that I have change and snacks and my outfit done before going because I really hate taking care of that kind of stuff on the way there.
So, when I was in Washington, every single time I would go to a show, I would this is so stupid, but and so simple, but I would stop and get a Safeway breakfast burrito. And it's just a grocery store, and they'd have breakfast burritos, and they're awful yet somehow delicious. And every single time I went to the farmer's market, every time I went to a Christmas show, every time I went to unless the store wasn't open, Like if I go to Leavenworth in the morning, I would stop, no matter if I was late or not. I would stop and get a breakfast burrito and eat it on the way. And that,
If I could have a food motivated ritual, it would absolutely be a motivated ritual like that. Because that
yeah.
sounds like something that would.
And
Hey,
like, I don't know why, but that just put me in the fucking mood to go fucking sell. I was like, I'm eating this shitty ass breakfast burrito and I'm gonna go fucking sell some pots.
I
And
love that.
he listens to music.
I have rich, yeah. Mine is I will usually have my nicer black tea. So usually it's Fortnum and Mason lemon or like a fruit flavored black tea, which is our like from London. I
Mhm.
have that. No matter if it's a summer show or a whatever, it's always the hot black tea. And then I'll listen to Kid Cudi on the way, music. And I think that's pretty much it. That's the main two rituals. I mean, I already mentioned the showering and everything like I always do that every morning anyways, but
Mhm.
yep, that's the same thing.
We
I don't think I
always,
have those for the morning though, unfortunately. I should. I should figure that out.
yeah, we
And
always,
then after if it's a good show when we're here, well,
oh,
not a good show regardless.
yes.
Oya, we go to Oya, which is a Mexican restaurant in town that I always love to get their al pastor tacos and frozen margarita. So,
It's your version of tatas. There you go. I get it.
yep,
Yeah,
that's usually
no,
where we go.
definitely need a celebration meal for sure, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a celebration or a consolation meal.
yes,
Like if
yes.
Yeah.
No,
it's a fantastic market, I'm gonna be like, yes, I'm getting meat on a stick. And then if it sucks, then I'm like, you know what? I deserve meat on a stick.
that's
So
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
That is right. I think
Mhm.
I'm sure I've said this, but I think that when I grew up, I always thought that rituals kind of were like a voodoo type of thing, and like it they were like they weren't necessary in life. But now that I'm older and do certain things that my life or my wallet may depend on, those type of things are really what get you through sometimes.
I agree. Absolutely. There are I think the difference is instead of calling it like a voodoo thing is that they usually call it ceremony instead of ritual.
Oh
And all of
yeah.
a
But you
sudden
just
that
called it a
language,
routine.
Yeah, routine, that's works
yeah,
too.
yeah. But I mean, look at the Catholic Church. It's full of ceremony, but it's ritual or
That's
routine,
probably
whatever
some
you
of
want to
it.
call it. It's
Yeah,
just, yeah, yeah, these things
I
bring
grew up going
comfort.
to Catholic church, so yeah.
I
I
haven't
mean,
gone to
they
a
did
Catholic church.
something
I've been
right. They've always done something right. Something's right.
Yeah, doing the same thing over and over
Look
and
at how many people they got.
yeah.
comforting. Yeah. You
Yeah,
know
you
what to expect. You know the rules. You can follow them. You know that you're gonna get a
pack your
result of it.
yeah, if you pack your car up the same way every time for a show, then you know what you have and what you don't have and what you're missing. And sometimes I'll
Yeah.
wake up at 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning the night before the show and be like, shit, my money box is downstairs. I'm gonna go get that real quick and bring that up next to my thing so that I know where it's at and I know I'm not gonna forget it. And
You know what's really great about living in your van is that whenever you go someplace like that, you always have your shit. Except
That's
for
so
this
smart.
time,
unless you
because
leave it somewhere.
yeah, unless you leave it somewhere. Like this time I have a little tent now. So like when I came down here, I didn't have one thing and I was like, what the fuck? Why don't I
Yeah.
have that? But it's been the probably the best thing about having a van and living in it is that wherever I go, I'm like, God damn it, I really need some Advil. I'm like, oh, home's just two steps away.
Love that. And you can drive home to the next Aldi if you need
Mhm.
something. So that's good. I don't have that. We drive a Volkswagen Beetle. So we got to empty that thing right out before I market it.
Oh,
There's not even room for like a box of Kleenex because there's just too much show stuff in there.
and both of you can fit in there with show stuff in there?
I'm very good at Tetris.
Dang.
Yeah. So the Beetle is a hatchback and the seats fold down, the back seats do. So if you fit a 4-foot table right in the trunk, like right in the very bottom spot, then you can put the 6-foot table, 6-foot table, and then on the side you can put the tent. On top of that, you can put my packing paper box. And then I have those, the market crate box, the
Yeah, the
wooden
wooden
ones.
crates. Yeah.
I can fit 3 of those and then 2 of those. And they stack if you drive real careful. So
Dang.
there's a system there.
Yeah, you got a system.
Yeah. It's a bit tricky when we go to outdoor markets or markets where you have to transport things farther from the car to the booth, because then we also have a wagon, and we haven't
Yeah.
quite figured out how to make the wagon fit
Yeah.
without just
I'm
like
guessing you don't
throwing
have
it
a
on
roof
top.
rack on the Beetle, so
Yeah, it's a little round. Roof
yeah.
racks don't go on Beetles as easily as they do some cars.
Yeah, you'd have
Yeah.
to see if the show has a wagon or
Yeah,
something.
we have one, but we usually it's kind of like an afterthought. And so at the end of the market, or at the end of packing the car, we're like, ah, wagon. So we just like throw it on top of everything else, and that's maybe not the best thing to do.
Have you seen, I don't know if they have these in Canada, but they have a Milwaukee cart that folds completely flat.
I have
It's
not.
the wheels pop out.
We have something like that. That was my first cart that I used.
Yeah, the wheels pop out, and then when you fold it open, the other wheels are moving, and it can hold up to like 300 pounds.
Okay, that's not
Do
the
you have a
same.
link for that? You're
That's
doing
not the same.
links for things.
I will send you some. Yeah, I'll send you one. It's really hard to find. It's really hard to find. Like
Okay.
I went to like 3 different Lowe's in California trying to find one, and thank God I didn't get one because I probably wouldn't have used it. But yeah. And it's not a dolly. It's not a dolly, it's an actual cart. It can be a dolly, but it can turn into an actual cart.
Oh, interesting.
It's very
Interesting. We do
nice.
have a wagon and it does work pretty well, but I am interested in making things easier for myself, of course.
Yeah.
Show
I mean,
setup is like a whole thing all in itself, isn't it?
yeah. It is, the wheels are a little tiny chintzy, like I've used one of similarly and had way too much weight on it, and it does not roll very well on rickety concrete, but you know.
Oh, good to know. Okay.
But I mean, like
Ooh,
that was me stacking 6 bins up on top of it. So,
Yeah.
question those limits. Okay.
yeah.
Do you find show setup is easier with pottery or jewelry now?
Oh, it's way easier with jewelry. But
Yeah.
also, I've like changed my setup quite a bit because,
Yeah, we'll see at the coffee show. I'm curious what you're gonna set it up like.
oh, we have no idea what the coffee show is going to even do. We have no fucking clue. The so the way that the setup used to be was that I had 2 origami shelves, and then I'd put them on risers, and then I'd put a board on top of that, and I could have pottery on the bottom, and then the jewelry on the top. And that was great, and it was a minimal setup, but the problem with that was that those pieces didn't aid me in any way outside of shows. And so,
Like in your van, you
yeah.
mean?
So it was like, oh, I'm gonna go to a show maybe once every 2 weeks or whatever, and these are just gonna be sitting there. And so, I switched to having four 4-foot tables, and those tables can aid me in any way possible when I'm not in a show. So,
That's basically your studio work
yeah, it's
tables.
my studio work tables. And so, so I've switched that, and then now there's tablecloths, and then I was putting them up on risers, and then my risers, because they were on grass and they were like double stacked, the table would kept falling over because it was so light. And
Mm.
so and I haven't done a show since the table falling over twice in the same show
What a
with all my
nightmare.
shit on it.
You don't have the legs that can extend pretty high? That
No,
one 4-foot table I have.
listen,
It's like 36. I think it's that table back there.
I went cheap on these tables because I found them on sale at Target.
Oh, okay.
So they're really shitty tables. And but Target has 8-inch risers, I think.
No,
So I'll
really.
probably switch to those.
Okay.
Because what was happening was they were the small risers, and they were like buckling under themselves
Right.
because they were stacked
Oh,
on top of each other, and
Yeah.
they would like
okay.
buckle, and then the table would fall,
You don't want that.
and you don't want that.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
You can use this table at the coffee show if you don't have another one like it. It can raise higher than what it is right now.
Yeah, well, and the coffee show also has 8-foot tables that we can use.
That's true. Yeah.
We'll probably do an L this year again, and we'll have to figure it out. I always sacrifice my space for Ryan so that we can
What?
get through to the back of the
Oh,
table.
right.
It's true.
Yeah.
But I
That's
don't.
key. I like to do an inside L, and that way people can come in, but also so I can escape because I
Yeah,
don't want to be trapped back there.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the show setup's gonna look like. I'll probably end up making little posts because I only have two shows this whole year. One of them being the Michiana Pottery Tour, and one of them being the coffee festival. And you know what's wild? And I haven't said this out loud even to Ryan. Um,
I'm like, what's coming?
Let's
This is
hear
my
it.
last year doing pottery, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I have said though that if I wanted to say that I was done doing pottery, I'm gonna announce it on April 1st.
So nobody believes you?
Yeah. Um, so at least you got me until April. Anyway, so I bought like a whole new fucking setup for LA when I went to LA that was a little bit more compact, and I used these cool risers they were like rainbow risers, and then
Yep.
I spray painted these like the earring contraption that I was like hanging all the earrings on, and he's gonna hate me for this. And I hated the earring thing. I just didn't it doesn't look good. It's not as like it doesn't look high class or anything like that, so I gave it to Goodwill. I bought it and then I gifted it to Goodwill like
I'm happy you gifted it to Goodwill instead of throwing it in the trash, honestly.
yeah, I gave it to Goodwill maybe 3 months later.
I can
That's what
respect
happened.
that.
I think a lot
Hanging
of,
around with stuff that you don't need forever is really stressful.
yeah.
Get
I
rid of
mean,
it.
I think you got that for that specific line of earrings too, right? You
Yeah.
thought it would pair well with that
Yeah.
earring set.
But I mean, I think that I guess what I'm saying is sometimes it's okay to just be like, that didn't work.
That's
You
true.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Instead
because
of
Yeah.
trying to
otherwise you're
fight
gonna
it
keep
forever.
taking that thing to your shows and
Yeah.
it's not gonna elevate the work that's on the table. And
Yeah.
you're just like, this didn't plan out like I thought it would. Like it looked different in my mind.
Yeah. And like this year I knew I wasn't going to do shows, so the mug rack, I actually ended up lending it to oh my God, my
Mug rack?
the mug like tiered mug rack that I had that I spray painted that was I still like that. That's really cool. But I ended up lending it to Emily from Pastel Designs.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so that she could use it
The
for
kind of
shows.
stair step
Yeah.
rack. Okay.
Tiered. Yeah, so that she could use it. And I knew that I would find something, you know, for the two shows that I was doing.
hmm
So,
Mhm.
Hey, I just stick with the same fucking shelves for 3 years and I don't change
yeah.
the shelves. I've kept the same tablecloths, same shelves. I don't know. I don't know what the
If
next
it's not
elevation would be. I
broken, don't
mean,
fix it,
the only thing I'm
Yeah.
still using the same 6 foot tables. I'm like, these tables are gonna have to break for me to replace them because
Your booth always looks really good though, so you've clearly figured out a
um,
system for it.
I don't know.
Yeah. You know what I did get is I got these clear plastic risers from Amazon, and honestly, they make the booth look so much better.
Ooh.
Like,
You're talking about just the little blocks.
yeah,
Like
they're
some
just
people
like,
use wooden square blocks.
yeah,
You're
they're like,
using
mine are like 6 inches long, and they all stack in between each other. And like, there's four to a set, essentially, and you get two sets.
kind of like a U shape.
Yeah, on
Oh,
Amazon.
okay.
And there's short ones, medium, and they get taller. And they look so good.
They would go really well with your work too, just because the silver and the moving light around like that too.
Yeah, well, that was just for the cups, I'm saying, but the earrings is a whole nother level. We don't need to go there, but yeah.
Yeah, we've seen the evolution of Deanna with her booth with earrings and stuff. Like it's a lot of work to
It's a lot of
and
fucking
you're
work.
trying to convey this certain value as well. There's a lot that goes into the jewelry, I'm sure.
Yeah, like the amount of time and effort and thought and money that she has put into her booth is unbelievable to me. Like 10 out of 10, I think the two people that we know closest, or I know closest, that could get into the fancy booth shows is Deanna and Andrew Krieger. Like, that are not like the 5 shows a year type of people, you know. Well,
Okay.
Andrew wants to be that person, and he is gonna be that person, but
Is this stationary, Andrew?
no, this is Sheboygan Andrew, aka Baby Andrew.
Andrew Krieger.
Yeah,
I'll have to look him up
I
again.
said that right, didn't I?
Krieger. Yeah,
Krieger.
people think his name is Kruger, but it's actually Krieger.
He does crystalline pottery.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. I
yeah.
think I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
But like crystalline, you have to have a fucking booth that looks nice.
Yeah, it's fancy pots.
Yeah.
Crystal's right in it. I don't have any of that.
I fucking hate shows.
Yeah,
They're a
I'm like,
lot of work.
as long as they're gonna accept me into this show, I'm gonna keep going. Like I sent them a photo of what this booth looked like. They know what they're getting into, but it looks nice. It's like, oh, yeah,
And
it's tables. I get it. There's gonna be shows they're not gonna accept me because I got tables. I'm like, okay, I can
Tables.
flex.
What's
I
wrong
can
with
go with
tables?
different shows that don't require that. It's okay.
yeah, but he's making like 6 grand at booths that are accepting him and that have their price tag is maybe $1 grand less than other shows, you know?
Like the
Yeah.
booth that costs $1 grand somewhere,
Yeah,
and I'm paying like $350 or
yeah.
something like that.
And he's
Yeah,
making
that's
six
about my range
grand,
too.
whereas he'd probably make 6 grand at that show too,
And I'd probably have to drive a lot further.
and rent a hotel and do the things.
Yeah.
That's
That
another thing.
sounds booths where I have to go and rent a hotel room and find cat care and all that kind of stuff. That's just out of my scope. That's not going to happen for me.
Yeah.
So
Like those, yeah, like Deanna pays money for hotels and stuff like that, and so does Andrew. And I was thinking about this recently, like I could never afford that. I could never afford to go to a show and buy a hotel and do all the things. And I'm so lucky that wherever I drive, I can sleep, you know?
yeah, it would be a lot of fun though. I love staying in hotel rooms and eating out and doing that kind of thing and
Yeah,
like
it would be
seeing
a
new
lot of
towns.
fun.
I would have a blast doing that. It's just it's yeah, that's out of the budget for me anyway. I'm really glad that it's part of the like cost of business for some people and they can operate like that, but just
Yeah,
not
but
gonna
you're
cut it when I've got 2 cats at home.
exactly like, and you're putting all your money in the basket of the show making it make worth it, you know?
Yeah.
And some of
You have
those,
to
they
really put
have
your
to do
show
those
in.
shows because Andrew probably can't do some of the shows that I do and make it financially worth it.
Yeah.
You have to get in front of that clientele that's willing to spend the money on that work because that's where the quality of your work is at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's yeah.
Didn't I say that thingy? Did I say this a couple, I don't know, episodes ago where I said I saw a quote that said your pieces could be worth $1 million at one place and they could be worthless at
So
another,
true.
just because of the people that you're showing your work to.
Absolutely. I feel like there are some places that if I were to bring my work, I think my things are moderately priced. I don't have things that cost $300, but I also don't have things that cost $5. They're
Right.
they're middle of the road. But I know that if I were to show up to some places, they'd get the attention of like, well, for example, I recently went to Rib Fest in Brockville. It's pulled pork and ribs and that kind of thing. And it's a fantastic thing. I wouldn't put my booth there for a couple of reasons because number one, most people going to that have already just spent $40 for one meal and they're not going to want to buy a mug. They've That's a lot of money. And also, it's an overnight thing where people are rowdy. There's a beer tent and I've got breakables. How fun would it be to go in at 2 a.m. after you've spent all night at the beer tent and go through it with a stick? Like
Yeah.
things are pretty worthless if they're in shards in the ground in the morning.
Yeah,
I'm not
those
gonna go
shows that they expect you to be there past like 7 p.m. I'm like, why do I want to do a show where I gotta stay till like 9 or 10 o'clock? Like, I'm not gonna sell anything during that time. What's the point? You're just adding hours on here when I'm supposed to be relaxing so that I can be there the next day for
Yeah.
another 6 hours, not 10 hours. Like, I'm not doing a 10-hour show. That's so long. Yeah. Also, like it does benefit you having your different lines of work, because you could probably cater some of those pieces at certain shows that you're at. I know I do that.
100%,
Certain
yeah,
shows
that
I
makes
bring
sense.
out more of a certain grouping of pots because, hey, I'm not going to sell any vases at the show. I can leave those at home. I can leave some of these other things at home and make more of the footprint, the items that are in the $25 to $40 range.
That's smart. I have not quite figured out how to pare down yet. I kind of just put everything in the car and then it all ends up on the table, which I have to work on that because the table always looks pretty cluttered.
Well, yeah, you have to have the inventory for it first.
You should get some of those risers.
I have some of those risers, but I don't know why I haven't used them.
I'm guessing the styles with the carvings are grouped together though, right? So that it's kind of, oh, like you stumble upon something and then you're peering through the other designs. Or are
I
they
tend to do forms together. So like all
forms?
the oil bottles are together and then all the mugs are together, all the planters are together, which maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should do like half the table groupings of the carved ones and then groupings of the colored ones.
Yeah. I would do it if you have two different tables. Maybe have just a section of one of the tables with the designs.
That's a good
I don't know,
idea.
maybe just trial it out and see if there's any different differences, and see what Mr. Aletha, what feedback he gathers about, maybe that's the draw you into the booth. Maybe that's the thing on the front edge of the booth that draws people in, and then they see the other stuff.
I'm gonna have to bring that up to him. We've got a market coming up in 2 weeks in Gananoque, which is pretty close by. It's the first time this market has happened. It's an art fest, so it's all artisans, which I love. Um, and I'm undecided whether or not I can go for that. I'm on steroids right now, so I might be able to go for that, but we'll see in a couple weeks how I'm feeling. And I'll tell him that. I'll give him that feedback and see if he wants to group that way.
You should
Well,
get
we'll
a
see.
you should get a cassette toilet in one of those like individual tents that you can put behind the tent.
It's soundproof.
Is it soundproof? That's a good question.
I'm not putting a tent right next to that. I appreciate the sentiment, but no thank
There's
you.
just a tent out by a random tree out in the field.
Not me. Just exploding. No thanks.
Oh my God, tell Ryan about that one show that you were like, does this seem right? The one that was 4 hours out in the barn?
Oh God, it wasn't even 4 hours, it was 3 hours. So I got invited and I've been invited several times to this one show that I'm sure it's lovely. I'm not knocking it. I bet it's great, but it's like antiques and things like that, which none of my things are antiques, so I'm not really sure why I'm getting invited to it. It's a old building, has no plumbing at all. They don't do porta potties at all. The show itself is only 3 hours long because of this absence of any utility whatsoever. And it's in the middle of nowhere. Like it's way out. So I'd have to drive an hour to get there, set up for an hour, spend 3 hours there, make hardly any money because nobody's there, take down for an hour, drive home for an hour, and all the time I would want to blow up because I am sick. So no.
But even if you were a normal, even if you had a normal stomach,
Yeah.
that's not acceptable.
No, because that's well, even if you lived right next to them, which nobody does because they're in the middle of nowhere, that's still a 5 hour day with no utilities for setup, tear down, and the 3 hour duration of the show.
Right.
Like if you have a female anatomy at all, that's
Yeah,
not okay.
that's a no go. Yeah.
Like you can't just like pee behind the barn.
Right.
I don't know what they expect you to do otherwise. I'm not really sure. It
Like
looks
I
nice.
would be fine because I have a cassette toilet in my van. But
You
like
can do that. Your van's probably more soundproof than a tent next to my tent.
like I could
You
charge
could rent
people
out your
money.
cassette
Yeah.
toilet.
There you go. No,
That would
I
be
don't know what
fascinating.
and they're lovely people, I'm sure, but I had to be like, have you got a porter potty at least? And they're like, no, it's such a short market. Like, okay, well,
That's
I don't want to spend the same amount of time setting up as actually being there. Like that ratio
yeah.
doesn't work.
That's kind of like driving somewhere and not being there long enough to be there for your drive there and drive home.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I was just like, is this me and my body thinking this is weird, or is this actually weird? So thank you for confirming that that's
Honestly,
actually
the
weird.
vintage and the antique stuff sounds like a show Rachel would like to go to, but
Yeah. Oh,
not
it
for
seems
handmade
roughly.
work. It's like, yeah, these just don't like. It's a different clientele. People don't go to a yard sale and want to buy handmade pottery.
Yeah. It seems beautiful. Like I'm sure it's set up lovely. I've seen it on their Instagram. It's always like a really beautiful event, and they usually have some snacks and things, which makes me want to have facilities even more.
Right.
But it's just the facilities. I just don't understand it. Like, how can you hold a public event without having anywhere for people to be human beings with their human bodies? Don't get it.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Jeez.
A little sensitive about that, I guess.
All right. Should we wrap up? This has been, I think we're gonna,
3 hours.
well, we've been chatting
Oh,
for
we
3 hours.
did
I
it
don't know
again.
when we start. We started close to when we, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The last one was 3 hours too. We rambled on. At least this time we stayed on topic a little bit.
Yeah.
Becca
Well,
and I kind of
You
joked.
came with questions, which
yeah,
was
you
great.
interviewed us, which is awkward, but at the same time, great.
It wasn't awkward.
It's not awkward, but like we're supposed to be interviewing you.
We did. We talked about me. That's good.
Yeah.
I guess
Honestly, we
for
hit a lot of the things that I wanted to hit on anyway. So
yeah, I guess for a 3 hour show, having half of it being us interviewed is okay, I suppose.
yeah.
I think that works. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me on the show.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
Thanks
you
for
so
coming
much.
back.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last episode Aletha was on was 147. So if you want to look back on that, it's also going to be down in the show notes. So if you want to listen to that and hear another 3 hours and what's changed since then, you can look at that.
Yeah, and tell people where they can find you and when typically like what time of month your updates are.
Um, they're usually okay. So I'm Aletha. You can find me on Instagram and Etsy, and sometimes on Facebook, although Facebook is difficult, at Aleatha Bean, Aleathabean. And on Etsy, that's where I do most of my commerce. It's usually kind of like the beginning half of the month-ish, but I will always do announcements. I will always have it in my little bio on the Instagram profile. And I usually do like little countdown thingies. So if you want to have reminders, then yeah, I hang out on Instagram and all the tools for that are there. I hang out in stories on Instagram a lot. So you'll find me there
Yeah.
mostly.
Stories
Yeah.
are very entertaining for sure.
Oh, well, thank you. They're like 50% cats.
Yeah. I support.
Thank you. Me too.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Stop. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to another episode of Wheel Talk. This podcast is made possible through the contributions of all of our listeners who always ask us great questions, leave us reviews, and contact with us through social media. Thanks to all the fellow makers as well who take time to be interviewed and share about their lives and businesses.
And thank you to Ashley from Boldover Ceramics and Lindy from Lindy Garner Ceramics for their assistance on the Whale Talk Podcast Instagram. You are invaluable. Thank you to everybody.